Indiana football didn't just win a national title last season. They did it without their starting defensive lineman, Stephen Daley. He got injured after a celebration at the Big Ten championship game where they beat then number 1 Ohio State. And after that moment, he was supposed to be done playing college football, and now he's conspicuously back. He's not the only one. He entered the draft, didn't get drafted, and thanks to the new 5-for-5 rule, a whole bunch of legislation, basically the athletes started suing the NCAA, and the way this goes is the NCAA just backs down, because nobody's really running the ship over there. Stephen Daley is going to be back. He's going to play for the Indiana Hoosiers. But remember, this isn't just about him, because he's not the only one. When you actually look at what's going on, the fact that UNC just got back a kicker, so Bill Belichick going into this season, well, it kind of helps when your seniors aren't really seniors anymore. Like, they graduate and then they come back. I guess they keep taking more classes. Maybe they become grad school students. Maybe they don't. Who knows? What are we doing in college football? And how is this actually going to impact things going forward? Because this isn't just about one rule, like one rule change. It may seem like it at first. And the initial layer is high school athletes are going to be affected, or the landscape of who's going to win, because we can talk about it from that angle. Like, hey, you get back a starting defensive lineman, somebody who was a major player on the way to winning a national title, that makes a difference. But it's much bigger than that, because there's going to be a cascading effect. For the matter of fact, there's already been a cascading effect of all of the changes that have happened in college football over the past few years. This is just another one where there's no real definition of what a college football player actually is and what it isn't. These changes, the rule changes specifically, are happening and they're impacting everyone, so you see it from the top down. A friend of mine who coaches in the power conferences said it this way. His language was, the conversations being had by the NCAA are the conversations at the top. And to be quite frank, those are the only conversations that need to be had. DeLuke just put out a video about conference realignment, and he walked through everything that happened over the last 5 years. And it feels like decades of realignment happened within 5 years. When he makes that video, he points out that, to be real, all of this started with Texas and Oklahoma getting out of the Big 12. The moment that happened, it was a bunch of dominoes that fall. Because that happened, to get UCLA and USC going to the Big 10, because that happened, Conference USA is changing, then you have the Mountain West changing, the Mid-American Conference trying to figure themselves out, the Pac-12 essentially is dead, collapses, then it comes back as some brand new Pac something. They may still use the name Pac-12, but nobody's really taking them that seriously, at least not for what the conference used to be. That's all the competitive stuff, like the rivalries and what fans want to watch. College football has always been special. Even if you're not all that big on football, you attend one of those schools, you know that it's a major component of student life. It's something for everybody to rally around. It's the sport that, for the most part, if you have a home game, and I attended an FCS college, but when there was a home college football game, it was unlike any other sporting event on campus. College football actually matters. But notice the language. It's college football. It has evolved into something entirely different. We are at a point where, with the professionalization of what we think college football is doing, the money that is exchanging hands, because these athletes who are fighting to come back to the NCAA, they're doing it because they have financial incentive to do so. They're not just playing football anymore, and they're definitely not just going to classes. All of the, money that was under the table, that's over the table, or maybe it wasn't on the table and nobody really knew, all of that gives people incentive. And where did this actually run to? Because if we can't define who is and is not a football player, specifically who is and is not, eligible to compete in college, things run away real fast. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. My name is Ezra, and if you really want an unfiltered perspective on college football, type that allows you to see it clearly, then you are in the right place. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. People think that, conversations like this kind of, are like doomsday scenarios and people are jumping out the window. I can very quickly tell you, coming from another community, like the track and field community, they know exactly what it's like when the rules get really, really shady. Because you have athletes who might be 26, 27 years old, who are coming over from international locations, and they end up competing for national titles in Division I. I'm not making this up. And when they do it, those athletes are not seniors on eligibility. Some of them might have competed at university games internationally, but then they're coming over to be an American freshman and compete in our college system. If you don't actually have real rules that mean something, calling it college football is at that point arbitrary. You end up at a point where you have sports programs. Not even that, sports teams. They're just housed out of a university, but they really don't have any real association with the university at all. There was a time when athletes would actually go to a college, like they would commit, they would go after high school, they would stay there for 4 years, and then they went on about their lives. Maybe they played professional sports, maybe they didn't. Maybe they went on to the workforce. All those commercials that the NCAA used to make that was like, hey, there's so many athletes and most of us are going pro in something other than sports. They weren't lying. That was actually going to happen. But from right now, the fact that people can kind of find their way to stay on campus, which I ain't gonna lie to you, being on campus is not a bad experience, especially if you're doing it in the FBS. But if we remember that environment, that space, is supposed to be temporary. So first, if you just want to talk about the football side of it, well, what's going to happen? It kind of creates an environment where the rich are going to get richer. Because everybody wants to go to the power conference programs. You win a national title or you're up there competing in the college football playoff. You're one of those teams that people want to go to. Keep in mind, in Stephen Daley's case, he's a transfer. He was at Kent State University in the Mid-American Conference. And no disrespect, Kent State hasn't been all that good in the Mid-American Conference. But he played, started, he was a major contributor for them, leaves, ends up at Indiana, and, well, the rest is history. Remember, he played in the Big Ten championship game, like the one that we just had last season. He got injured apparently during a celebration. From that moment is where he started the comeback trail. Remember, he entered the draft. That doesn't quite work out. The injury might be a part of that. And then when provisions open up, because this thing was not supposed to affect his class, NCAA decided that it was going to impact students in a specific class year on down. And then you had a group who were leaving college and said, wait a minute. Why can't we be included? And when they ask why not, the truth is, they have a valid point. Because none of the other rules we have seem to apply to anybody, just like the transfer rules. The transfer portal became a free-for-all very fast. And now we're trying to work our way back to something that has a level of integrity. Don't really know how that's going to go, because up until now, like over the last few years, what I have seen, and I think anybody who's following college football has actually noticed this. If you are an athlete and you don't like a rule, you can probably find you a lawyer that can help you sue the NCAA and get them to back down. Transfer portal, here we go. It's not even just a one-time transfer with no exception, because we used to be in a situation where if you were to transfer one time, you were going to have to sit out for a year. It actually made sense to me because you have to think critically, like, do I really want to leave this school? And that actually advantaged students to graduating on time. Nobody's really been checking the graduation rates, specifically in college football, with all the athletes moving around. Because when you leave from one school to another school to another school, those are 3 credit structures. Normally you're transitioning from one state system to another state system, or private to public, or whatever it is. And that does make graduating on time a challenge. Even when it comes to the athletes getting money. That might be a great thing for the athletes. And the opportunity to play for another national title, hey, more power to you. I'm not necessarily blaming the athletes. At some point you have to wonder what's happening with the adults in the room. The adults in the room don't seemingly have a plan. It feels like, if just on this one issue, who's a player, who's not a player, college football is at a place where the athletes are now mercenaries. There was a time when the athletes were student athletes. This is not about changing the talent of the players. They're the exact same talent level. But the way those athletes are moving through the system has shifted. Because when you're a student athlete and you commit, you go to a program and the coach has to develop you. Why? Because you ain't going nowhere. In all likelihood, he can't get you up and out of there and just transfer somebody else in. Best case scenario, you get a new freshman. You're going to have to coach them up again. That's where the red shirts came in. Because some of these kids came in and just flat out weren't ready. They weren't ready to play. At least not ready to play at your level of football. It was fine. It was just the way the system was. There are many athletes who had a rookie freshman season, things that didn't go right, whether it was an injury or whatever it is. And one of my friends, he was a college basketball player. And I asked him, I was like, hey, with some of the issues that you dealt with your program and, stuff with the coaching staff, why didn't you transfer? He's like, bro, this is like 2015. This is back when people actually stayed in college. He's talking about Division I basketball, but that's exactly how he said it. He's like, this is when people actually just stayed on campus. It's like, everybody was there for 4 years. Like, where was I going to go? There was no transfer portal yet. When we increased athlete mobility, it also decreased the fidelity of the coach. So that's where you went from a student athlete being developed over time, where a coach had to recruit players who fit a system. Then they had to develop them for that system. College football had a brand to it. Teams had a brand of football, and they recruited, and everybody kind of knew, like, okay, Nebraska, they play a specific brand of football. Like, they just kind of knew that. I'm not just talking about teams that run Wildcat offenses and stuff. Like, everybody generally had a brand, and they were recruiting people to that brand. Now, there is no brand. It's just players. Trading cards, postage stamps. You swap them around. And the players have caught on to that. But it also changes the development structure of an athlete. Because if I don't know that you're going to be here that long, trust me, I talk to college coaches. Maybe not just in football, but across the landscape. And in the communities that I'm around, coaches tell me that they basically come to practice at this point. Like, the quiet part out loud. They walk into a practice looking at their program with the understanding that about half of the people there are considering leaving at any given moment. That's not what the world was like in the year 2010. It sure enough wasn't what it was like in the generation before. But that's what we're doing now. So everything comes at a cost. All this freedom for the athletes to come back, this freedom for the athletes to make some money, which, although some people are really getting paid, a lot of folk ain't getting what you think they are. Again, no shade, just being honest. All of it comes at a very real cost. And that cost always eventually falls to the athletes above all else. Because the adults in the situation, I think one of the things people are complaining about is that at the top, and you got to remember that part, those people are going to figure out a way to get their money. The coaches at the top, like the top of power conference football, the athletic directors, the administrations, all of them are going to figure out how they can get it how they live. It's really when you leave that environment. You get to the bottom half of FBS, you get to the group of 5, forget about FCS, like, come on, man, y'all out here grinding. Like, that's where it goes. Even when you have these FCS schools that are coming up, in this landscape, it doesn't really matter. Your players can just get poached. They can get poached, they can end up transferring, and then on top of that, when they're seniors, and if they're supposed to be done, they might even not be done and just come right on back to college, because that's what we're doing. I don't really understand how I get it, 5 for 5 rule is what we're doing. But we've seen too many exceptions. Exceptions that aren't really exceptions at all. It's just somebody who, starts a legal case and brings themselves back. And as long as people have an incentive to join college football in this free-for-all that we're doing, we're going to watch teams, and somebody's going to win. There's going to be a college football playoff, and no doubt, the fans are going to pay attention. Somebody's going to have that trophy. Could be Indiana again with Stephen Daley. For that matter, maybe Bill Belichick and UNC are going to get it together. Maybe this kicker is going to be a large part of it. Maybe it'll be all the way down at, the back of a game that's incredibly consequential, and him coming back and making that kick is going to be the difference. These rule changes don't just happen in a vacuum. They impact the game. But the game that we're watching is absolutely nothing like the game that we remember as college football. And I'm not entirely sure that part right there is a good thing in the long run. If you actually made it all the way to the end of this video, I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore because you are a real one. If you have any reaction at all to something that I said, I do invite you to sound off in the comments. I don't always get to respond to everything, but I do the absolute best that I can to read them all. If nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.